does it really take to build a business within 5 years, within 10 years, within 15, even 20? So I can tell you all the different levels because I've been an entrepreneur for 26 years ongoing. It's all different businesses, all different phases of my life, all different industries in a way. So for me, to give you advice on this, the first 5 years is definitely the hardest. It's where you have to get super clear on exactly what you're doing, especially if you weren't born into that industry and it was basically the knowledge that you were brought up in. You're gonna have to learn it, and that takes time and discipline, because now you have to not only learn, but you have to implement. And the best way to actually implement is just by doing. So investing your time, money, and energy in any way, shape, or form that you can to put yourself in the right place, to meet other people in those areas, to learn from them, to read books about them if it's not something you can actively get close to them in their circle. Like, read their history, find the reports that were written about them, find anything that you can to kind of like integrate yourself into that industry and that way of thinking. And then as you do that, implement as much as you can from where you're at. It's not going to be easy. Nothing is easy. If it was easy, like I tell a lot of my family, if it was easy just to show up online and post a post and you make money, then everybody'd be rich. Because that's a misconception too that I hear often, like, oh, I'm just going to make a bunch of posts and go viral. That's not the way this works. It can work, but it's like, playing the lottery. Yes, you can keep producing content, but if you have a system, now you can say, okay, I know it's working, I know it's repeatable. And yes, you have to put out volume, that's important, but you have to also be able to read the data to actually build upon it. And that's exactly what's happening in the business too. You have to be disciplined enough to show up every day, to put the work in, even if you're not seeing any results. Even if the data isn't like favorable for you, you got to keep putting yourself out there in different ways, in different networks, on different promotions that you're running, different products that you're promoting, and keep being determined with that vision so clear in your mind that it's not going to sidetrack you when the next new shiny object shines up, or when somebody says, hey, you're failing at this, try this, or when those inner thoughts tell you, you're not good enough, maybe you should just quit. You got to keep investing in it, even if you have to sidetrack for a couple years, go raise some more funds, and come back and give it another shot, especially if it's something that you're really passionate about. So that's exactly what you got to do for the first 5 years. The next 5 years after that, 10 years, is really making sure you have a solid system that you can train others on. So now you're freeing up your time to scale, because that's your scale season. That's the season where you're like, I'm going to go from 1 store to 2 store. I'm going to go from 1 offer to 10 offers. You see what I'm saying? That's when you can really build upon that solid foundation that you build in the first 5 years. And then essentially the next 10 years after that is really understanding your limitations. Because at that point, now you're in a whole other season where, like, I learned this, I got the foundation, I scaled it up where now I'm comfortable. But now how can I reinvest my funds that from my business, from those dividends, from trading off assets to grow in other areas? Maybe you just don't want to do some services, so you sell them off. Then, okay, how are you going to reinvest that? Well, that's going to take new learning and new skills. So you're constantly learning, you're constantly paying attention to what's going on in the market and what is trending, especially if you want to stay on top of your industry. So that's my advice to you. So for 5, for 10, and even for 20 years, I hope that helps.